All right, I think this thing is recording. So, getting past people's assumptions. I had to deal with so many people who promised to help me and offered to help me and told me that they look at all these Natalie Bollinger groups and they see all this stuff. And I asked them, please take screenshots and help me to turn it in. But they didn't. Instead, they want to ask 200 questions about why I need those pictures. Well, because the Bollingers and their friends and family were going out of their way to slander my name to the public over and over again before she was killed and after. Now, these internet nut jobs that got a hold of it, the police should have done something to stop these people. They use these platforms to try to destroy evidence, to slander my name, to coerce, threaten, harass, and intimidate my friends and family, and to try to convince others to do so through that slander. There is a reason that they lied the way that they lied. There is a reason that they went out of their way repeatedly over and over and over again to tell you that I was mentally ill and not to look at my evidence or to pretend that it doesn't exist. I shouldn't have had to post it publicly, but the police did not care. My friends did not care, and they still don't. It becomes a power and control issue. These people show, no matter how many times they tell me that I'm intelligent, they show me that I must be retarded to them by not hearing what I'm saying and repeatedly doing the same thing again. All right, I don't need the help that you would give a retard who doesn't know what the fuck is going on. I need you to stop being a retard who doesn't know what the fuck is going on. That's what I need. I need you to stop interrupting me to tell me you don't understand. Of course you don't understand. It's kind of difficult to understand when you're repeatedly interrupting someone to say things like, I don't understand. Or, of course, there's all sorts of parts that you were trying to claim that you understand by interrupting, not letting me finish, not getting the point. And then, of course, you're, in most cases, going out of your way not to get the point. Let me give you an example of mean help. There's a woman named Veronica Randall, and there was two things that she wanted to do for me, right? She wanted me to buy this bike. I bought it for $20. It was cheap. I bought it from her boyfriend. Now, they said that they gave me this bike later on when they wanted to throw in my face all of the nice things they had done for me. The second thing that she wanted to do for me, these aren't things that I needed her to do, and they aren't things that I could do at a moment's notice as she expected from me. See, when I hurt my back and couldn't get on a bike anymore, I tried to tell her that. She didn't want to hear that. She wanted to bully me. I literally had to have the bike in order to even get to work. There's no way I was going to be able to walk to work. At least on the bike, I can cut through the trail. If I'm on foot, yeah, I'm probably going to get in trouble for running through that trail. But people don't want to understand the circumstances or what's going on. They want to make assumptions. Assumptions are based on your imagination. How about we look at the events when there's actual evidence? So many people have other ideas, and they think that their wonderful idea is the end-all, beat-all, fix-all. They are making suggestion after suggestion after suggestion, and that is overwhelming. I don't need suggestions. I already know what to do. There are very clear instructions. But when you have to have an argument for hours with people who claim to care about you, and see, you want to bring that autistic people are retarded and don't understand the English language. Well, I know when somebody's fucking blowing me off and just trying to be nice about it. Don't fucking do that. If you don't fucking give a shit and don't want to help, don't fucking pussyfoot around. Don't tell me that you're going to, but you don't have a time or a day. It's just eventually maybe you might come forward. Eventually maybe you might make the time. No, you won't. People who care are going to take it seriously. You got to see on that one phone the recordings of just how long I had to scroll through with that stuff with Claire. Now, Claire kept on complaining that nobody would help her and she needed help. And every single time that I offered help, she'd change the subject or try to tell me that she finally had help. And then she'd complain that they're not doing anything and they're not helping. And then she'd complain that nobody would help her and nobody's trying to help her. And she reaches out to people and they don't offer to help. And she's expecting them to offer. I've offered many times. So for me, hearing her complaining about this, it's ludicrous. There's folks on here typing hi. Well, hello. Thank you for coming to my channel. If you guys are familiar with the Natalie Bollinger situation, well, it's a pretty screwed up situation. Now, the guy that killed her is Joseph Michael Lopez. Now, because I'm autistic and I have Tourette syndrome, I'm at a much higher risk and a much larger bracket for being abused. See, when you have Tourette syndrome and police have a history of harming poor people, and we get to see this all over the news, you guys anyway, I get to endure it in real life. A lot of homeless people do. I've gotten to see black people get paid millions of dollars for something those black people specifically said only happened to them once their entire life. These are things that I've recorded happening to me for years. See, when you try to tell on somebody who's having you physically harmed because they're embarrassed, what are you supposed to do? When you're fucking thrown out to the wolves and anything that you say is manipulated into something else, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do when that slander is loud in court, when posted all over the media, when your side is not heard, when your friends and family want to call you up offering their support, but instead of actually offering support, they want to talk about themselves again? See, this is also the problem before Natalie was killed, is that people wanted to tell me, oh, Shawn, let me tell you about this experience that I had, and this is why you just need to let it go. I don't think you're quite understanding what it is that you're fucking talking about, lady. Your situation and my situation do not directly translate. Me being separated from all of my friends and family while you and your family live in a house together. You get to see your loved ones every day. So many people wanted to offer to help me because they claimed they understood I didn't have a family. And then they let me know that they'd always had a family. They made a lot of bad decisions because of it. And then there's some of the worst offenders. Let me tell you about Shannon Alvarado. So she'd go through these true crime things, right? And then she'd have 1,000 fucking cockamamie conspiracy theories that got nothing to do with anything. And of course, this stuff that's in these Natalie Bollinger pages, they're literally taking things out of context intentionally. And I sent the complete file, all of that stuff. I kept sending it to Shannon Alvarado, who said she was going to look at it and help me turn it in. I kept sending it to Mandy Hughes, who was going to help me to turn it in. I kept sending it to literally anybody who would let me send it to them. Anybody who asked for it, I did my best to get it sent out. Now, when I'm talking to Shannon and I'm trying to tell her what's going on, she's already got a bunch of assumptions. She's already been tainted by the fucking cherry picking in these groups and has made assumptions, and she's not going to come off of those assumptions. So I'd tell her something that I tried to tell her 1,000 times before, but she always gets to the one point where she has to OCD spout exactly the same thing she said every time I get to that point in the conversation, and it shouldn't be a conversation. When you're helping to turn in abuse with a victim, it's not a conversation. You need to listen. Praying doesn't work. God doesn't care. You have no idea how many of the predators in my life have claimed to be Christians, especially real hardcore after they fucking commit a lot of felonies against me. That seems to be a real big kicker. They can twist and manipulate a lot of fucking stupid people by saying, oh, I believe in Jesus. No, the fuck you don't. I've read the Bible at least once for every year that I've been alive. That doesn't mean that I believe all of that bullshit. And I've had half of mine more than once to pull out the book of Romans and use it to wipe my backside, because that's the book of excuses. This is the shit that Christians want to use as excuses why it's okay to judge you, but you can't judge them. Only God can judge them. And then there's these folks, like, for example, Claire wanted to do this pray for me thing and waste a bunch of time like that. Like, can we do something that's not fucking drug induced? Seriously, I'm not on drugs. Can we stop doing this fucking schizo bullshit and pretending like it works? Because it fucking doesn't. Praying to God doesn't work. If you got a fork in front of you, you got food in front of you, you got a bowl or plate that food is in front of you, your arms work, your mouth works, your stomach works, your throat works. There is nothing physically wrong with you. You do not need to pray to God to get that food put in your belly. And if that's what you're going to rely on to feed yourself, you are going to fucking starve to death. You already have everything that you need. One moment, I'm going into a store to get me something to eat. Now, there's quite a few people who, well, they're harasser accounts that like to harass me quite a bit, that pretend to be Christian and pretend that they're being the ghost of Natalie Bollinger is in them. And they're just bullies. I'm being assaulted in real life, though, too. That's all right, I got cash. Ooh. Ah, sorry about that. Ah. right, I'm back. I do apologize for that. Ollie something typed, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but God does care. I don't fucking care. I don't. I really don't. That's like saying love and light. That doesn't fix anything. Telling somebody they just need to love themselves, that doesn't fix anything. When a disabled person is being abused and they're being gaslighted, they're being bullied, and then, of course, they're bullies, the people who are assaulting them and threatening them and threatening their friends and family. What are they going to do with that? Let me tell you something about my dad when he used to fucking beat me around. He wouldn't do it in front of his wife. It's kind of like those little girls being raped by their dad. Yeah, he's probably not going to do it in front of his wife. See, that's one of the issues with going to your mom when your dad's abusing you. Oh, are you sure? Are you sure that he didn't, accidentally touch you while he was walking by on accident? And you're constantly interrupting her to second guess everything. Same thing with the boys that are beaten. Of course, my dad didn't fucking beat me in front of his wife. There's a reason for that. Diane wasn't going to stand for it. Diane is not the kind of person who's going to let somebody physically assault them. And I just bought a gallon of milk. It's too heavy for me to carry. Shit. I wish I had something to tie around the handle. I could tie it to my waist. That's one of the things about working with my disabilities. A lot of people, instead of letting me explain to them a lot of stuff that a friend or family member would know if they kept in contact, they actually cared. Well, if someone is going to help me, they need to know those things. When I tried to turn in crimes that were committed against me and the police wanted to arrest me and try to separate me from the phone that was full of evidence that I was telling the truth, or wanted to take me to a mental hospital or a regular hospital usually and tell them that I'm schizophrenic or delusional or bipolar. They're trying to tell those people at the hospital not to listen to me. They've done the same thing that I had to deal with Shannon Alvarado. She was already tainted. So then when I'm telling her the truth of the situation, and she's already been sent an entire file that shows all of the words between me and Natalie Bollinger, all of them together in order. When I first posted it on Facebook, I posted it in order. But Facebook algorithms, right? Facebook posted up all out of order. And then people were accusing me of posting it up out of order and on purpose. There's an overlap in every single one of those. So you can literally read every single word and you can tell that I didn't skip stuff. But that's not how these predators want to play it. Kind of like when they coordinate in these groups to try to destroy evidence or to threaten, harass, and intimidate my friends and family. And I got to try to turn that in, but all I'm getting is excuses. It's hard for me to believe that you were threatened when you're making excuses not to turn it in. And those of you with kids, it's hard to believe that these people were actually threatening to kill you over trying to help me with Natalie Bollinger. It's really hard to believe that. When if those things were actually happening, you would try to turn it in. You would welcome the help. That's number one. And number two, you aren't the only victim in that. All right, that's not just you who's the victim. If they're threatening to kill your kids for helping me, your child is also the victim, and I am also the victim, and that needs to be turned in with me. And any excuse that the police are making why you can't turn that in with me or that it's unrelated, no, it's absolutely related. The Bollingers and their friends and family stalked me before Natalie was killed and after. They could have just left me alone. They could have stopped slandering my name. None of my friends cared to look at the evidence or hear my story. They were too busy giving advice, and Shannon Alvarado is the worst about giving advice. Now then there's this we'll call it a sidewalk slam. You know, some promises you they're going to help you. You've already tried going to a bunch of people that every one of them goes out of their way to show they don't understand by, instead of helping you to turn it in, they've got 4,000 ideas of who maybe we could turn it into. And then they never make any effort to do that either. And then they ask you if you've done it. Have you called that place yet? You said we were going to call them together. You said you understood and we were going to do this together, and we didn't do it together. So then there's the issue with tweakers. Like trying to get somebody who's sober to actually give a shit, they just don't. So the majority of the people that offer to help, it turns out that they're on either meth or alcohol most of the time. And they don't have the ability or capacity to learn for the most part. They certainly don't have the ability or capacity to learn about somebody else's situation. I mean, almost every single one of those types of occasions, if I can get someone to sit down with me and look at evidence, is that they're going to continually change the subject. If it comes to actually looking at evidence or listening to me, they're going to interrupt me repeatedly and say things that let me know that they're getting bored. Or I will hand them some papers and they'll just kind of be hunched over, and then they'll tell me, I'm listening, I'm reading, I can't read and listen at the same time. So I am silent for 5 minutes, and then I hear a little bit of snoring, like, fuck. What am I supposed to do? And then, of course, there's the pet projects thing. And I can give you examples from my dad. I can give you examples from Shannon Alvarado. You know, when Shannon Alvarado wanted to find her friend Marnie, when she brought it up, I'd make another post within 10 minutes trying to help. I helped how she asked. She did not help how I asked. She didn't help how she promised. Her pet project when it came to helping me was to bombard me with conspiracy theories. I don't need that. That's not helpful. That doesn't assist me in the least bit. Your conspiracy theories are based off of what you saw in these Natalie groups. What about the evidence that I'm sending you? And many of these people claim that if I sent them evidence, if I spent all of that time to send them evidence, they would help me turn it in together in person. The ones who didn't say that they would help to turn it in together in person said that they would help me to get someone to turn it in with me in person. And those things never happened. And the people involved didn't want to come forward. They just wanted to make excuses. Oh, Shawn, they're not going to listen to me. They're not going to listen to me. Megan Messigatis, who was supposed to be my autism advocate in Nebraska, said that they weren't going to listen to her because she was fat. Are you serious? She also said that the media had never listened to her. Well, her son and her daughter and herself and her husband, their names are all on the internet from before she met me because the media did listen to her. The media posted all up about this fundraiser that she was having. So, of course, Shannon Alvarado said she was going to look at the evidence with me in person. And instead of talking nonstop with her 1,000 conspiracy theories, she was going to actually listen and let me show it to her. So when I was there, that literally didn't ever happen. The closest that I ever got to that was one night. She took 35 pictures of my evidence, thank goodness, over a 4-hour period, a little over 4 hours. And she had to be very drunk to do it. And then folks, you know, they say they understand when you tell them, hey, what I need you to do right now is stop interrupting me to say, what can I do right now? Because what I need you to do is listen without interruption. That's the most simple thing. And how many of you are going to say, oh, well, I am not willing to listen unless I'm allowed to interrupt? So many people said that they were in an environment where they could listen, they just couldn't talk. You don't need to talk to be able to hear somebody's story. Listening does not require your mouth at all. Fuck, my back is killing me. So, when it comes down to actually looking at the evidence at the last minute, well, Shannon Alvarado, my dad, many other people. We'll give you just the example of my dad. So, my dad, he said that he would listen to my story without interruption and he would look at evidence. I finally got him to say that he would do that. Like, if he actually cared about me, that's what he'd be doing instead of arguing and treating me like I'm retarded. But it's my dad, and he's a piece of shit, just like Natalie's dad. Selfish as fuck. It doesn't matter what the truth is. What matters is feeling like a winner. That's what matters. Feeling like you won. Why is there a fucking competition about my abuse? You want to win an argument about my abuse. No, you haven't won an argument. You've just successfully alienated me and made me feel completely like shit for going to you for help. I already knew not to go to my family for help. What my dad did, instead of, well, when we had the time that he had specifically set up that I had to beg him for, after he said he would do these things, and the whole time I'm there, I'm like, when are you going to do these things? Instead, he wanted to start making a bunch of rules and adding a bunch of more rules and a bunch more. And I'm like, Jesus fuck, dude. None of this is helping me. So he finally watches a video about the freeze loop. And then all of a sudden, he's accusational and blaming me for everything bad that ever happened because it's my fault because of the freeze loop. Like, holy shit, you don't understand what the freeze loop is. You abuse somebody until it's a major issue that needs to be remedied. And that person can't get heard. The freeze loop is they're trying to explain it to you and you're repeatedly interrupting them and telling them that shit isn't important, like they're fucking retarded. You know what? When somebody fucking assaults me because somebody fucking lied to them, the person that lied to them, yeah, that's important. The person who fucking assaulted me, yeah, that person's important too. Turning in that fucking crime is what I'm asking you to do. Not for me. They'll make excuses if you go in by yourself and tell you can't turn it in for somebody else. If I go in by myself, they're going to refuse to listen to me and try to send me to mental health. Together. A disabled person has the right to have someone there and present, a friend or family member. It is against the law for them to prevent that. And my dad, instead of hearing my story, he wanted to interrupt me repeatedly to treat me like shit and refused to look at the evidence. He told me a couple of times that we could go look at it after he was done talking at me. Jesus, fuck, Dad. Then he wanted to call me a pussy repeatedly. He didn't like being called that back. Of course, I was nice about it. What I was interested in doing was being non-confrontational and leaving the abusive environment. God damn, that milk container is too fucking heavy. Now, when it comes to being dependent on people, there are a lot of services that are available, but those services are not available if I have to try to get them by myself. I'm going to get well, have you tried this place? Have you tried that place? Instead of doing their jobs, what they want to dig is for some other place that they can pawn you off onto. And then they call those resources. Oh, well, we don't actually do any of this stuff to help victims. What we do is we're a resource place. So what we do is we give you the numbers for places that are supposed to help you. And all of those places are making money for doing the same thing. Nothing. A lot of people are pissed off about Elon Musk firing a bunch of people. Well, I don't know if he fired the wrong people or if he fired the right people or if it was his place even to do so or if he's even more morally capable of holding a position like that. But what I do know is that if you've got 400 people all getting paid to do a job that they're not doing, well, why can't we pay, let's say, 40 people to actually do that job? How about we put things in place that allow victims who go in for help to actually be able to show that they went in for help instead of, for example, the people that care wanting to pretend I didn't go in for help or try to turn in the abuse. The police wanting to pretend that I didn't go into them or try to turn in the abuse. Or, of course, there's TFCC as well. See, they do these things because no friend or family member is there, so there's not going to be any consequences. They refuse to listen because they knew that I was alone and there wasn't going to be any consequences. The people who assault me, generally when I'm by myself, and they know there's not going to be any consequences. When you make the calls with somebody else, if they decide to be rude like that and hang up, they have to be afraid that there will be consequences because there's a witness. There's somebody who cares. And when you guys say, oh, well, you should record this. I've been recording for years. Having the recordings is not the problem. The problem is not having a friend or family member who's going to look at those fucking videos and turn it in with me. Instead, they want to treat me all skeptical and refuse to look at the videos or promise that they looked at them and then still treat me like I'm a fucking idiot and show that they don't know anything about what was in the video I sent them. So, I've got people that will repeat back to me stuff in videos that the only reason they can repeat that back to me is because I've talked about it 1,000 times. There's so many people that are so busy talking, so busy giving ideas, when I'm finally able to get past that part that they didn't want to hear. And I'm able to tell them what it is I was trying to say to begin with, and it turns out it wasn't what they were assuming. Like, yeah, was it really, really that difficult? Like, when I get to that point and you want to interrupt me to tell me your whole life story, is it really that important to tell me your whole life story? If your daughter is raped, are you going to the police to turn in the rape, or are you going to the police to turn in your whole life story? When your says, hey, I was raped and I need to go into the police, will you go with me? Do you listen to your daughter about what happened, or do you talk about yourself nonstop? What I'm saying is that these people who promised to help me were highly inappropriate in their approach. They didn't approach it as if I was their friend who was being victimized. They treated me as if I was somebody who had the plague. And they'd say, sure, I'll help you as long as you stay 10 feet away from me. And then they never help you. I'll help you get some medicine as long as you stay on the other end of town, and then you never see the medicine. Or you get the greedy idiots who are like, I'll tell you what, you sign me over everything so that when you die, I get all your stuff. All you guys know folks like that in your family. Of course, they're not going to say it like that. They're going to talk nice. They're going to try to finagle you into it. Now, that's an issue that, especially with Shannon Alvarado, but it is consistent with nearly all of the people who said that they would help. They claim that they understood that I needed help because I already had too much on my plate. There was no possible way for me to do it, and I didn't have the facilities to do it, and they did. So when people said that they would help me, and I invested all of that time in trying to find a friggin' Starbucks or a McDonald's so that I could sit down with the internet, or a library and sit down with the internet and spend hundreds of hours to go through this stuff and send it to them, for them not to be able to spend even 1 hour turning it in with me. I have over 100 hours of recordings with Claire Jordan. That might be surprising, but We talked a lot. And consistently, it always comes back around to her. She can keep her word as long as she's allowed to talk over everything I say and make a bunch of fucking false claims and make everything more complicated than it needs to be. Like, she can't help me to turn in the abuse until we get a cartographer. We don't need a map maker, or that we needed to get somebody to type it all out. No, we don't. You have no idea how many people made that excuse. That we can't turn in anything to the police until we get somebody to literally type out every single word that's on these videos. No, that's not true. All we got to do is call together and verify that it exists, okay? How fucking difficult is it for you to recognize that if I'm being treated like I'm schizophrenic and delusional when I try to turn it in by myself, then maybe it's not a good idea to turn it in by myself. Just because it's not a good idea to turn it by myself doesn't mean that I'm not trying to turn it in, and it doesn't mean that I'm not trying to turn it in by myself. Now, I try to do things to keep myself safe, like stating what it is that I'm intending on doing over and over again, stating very clearly that I am following instructions of the Nebraska State Patrol to turn in Sheriff Scott DaCosta to himself. And then I make the phone call to Scott DaCosta's offices, and they send me back to the Nebraska State Patrol. And of course, I recorded all of that. And then I get treated like I was a criminal for that. What did I have to turn in Scott DaCosta and his boys for? Well, not just assaults, threats, harassment, intimidation, coercion. They wanted to intentionally misrepresent the situation and tell a bunch of people in Chapel, Nebraska I was schizophrenic and not to listen to me. Like I said, the term mentally ill, just like Natalie used it, shows that she was predatory. It shows that her intention was not to tell the truth, not to show the truth, but to discourage others from hearing my side. And the thing that really sucks about that for her is that the things that she was claiming were slander were her words. That's right. She didn't want anybody to hear me. She didn't want anybody to look at the slander. That's an email from Natalie Bollinger, and it's also the screensaver for this here video. The actual message from Natalie Bollinger even shows her email address. That's what I exposed Ted Bollinger with. After over a year of being assaulted, threatened, intimidated, separated from my loved ones, being given bad legal advice, all because I couldn't find one fucking person that wasn't too selfish to keep their word. Yes, people will promise out the wazoo that they'll help you, but you need help now. You shouldn't have to pay a friend or family member to care, okay? You shouldn't have to do that. When they're busy trying to dig for excuses not to keep their word or excuses not to turn in abuse, it's a pretty shitty situation. This person calling himself the gamesman typed, "What are we turning in?" And as long as you have the proof, then I'm sure you can sue for, this is an opinion. You're sure I can sue for defamation. A lot of people say that, and you're absolutely right. But before I can do any of that, I have to have a safe environment, and I have to be able to safely go through the evidence and safely turn it in. What I'm turning in is physical assaults, threats against my friends and family's lives, and of course, the way that police officers have treated me, and the courts have treated me, and mental health has treated me, because mental health has been tainted by these situations. And you can see that because there are two sets of mental health people that I've seen. There's the mental health people that I saw on my own. And I had access to my evidence. I had access to my phone. I had access to things that I could show them so they knew that I was telling the truth. They don't want those in court, and no public pretender is going to do their job, so their words are never heard. You're told by these mental health people that they have to be subpoenaed. Well, your friend or family member doesn't have to be subpoenaed to tell the truth. your friend or family member would help you to turn it in. They would volunteer to do that shit in most cases if they're actually friends or actually family, as opposed to relatives and acquaintances. And we should probably get familiar with those words. Relatives and acquaintances. Your friend is the guy who you go to him and you say, hey, I was just assaulted by my boyfriend, or my fucking professor at college fucking raped me. And that dude helps you how you need. He'll ask you once what help you need, and then he will allow you to tell him. And then he'll turn it in. And yeah, there's a lot of situations where that guy might also interrupt you a bunch to say, hey, let's go beat his ass, or say that he's going to go shoot them and things like that. You know, I get to deal with that as a non-pretty disabled homeless man. I mean, within like an 8-hour period yesterday, yeah, it's 1:25 a.m. here. In an 8-hour period yesterday, 3 different people were threatening to harm Andrew Wolnez, saying that they already intended on harming Andrew Wolnez, not over what he had done to me, but what he had done to them, continues to do to them. So then those folks, you know, when they say that they're not hiding anything, well, a lot of these folks, their excuses for not coming forward are shitty. I'll give you an example. Ted Bollinger's bullshit was allowed. It wasn't true, but it didn't matter. And he is a felon. A lot of these people who claimed they were going to help me wasted my time, and then after 6 months of making any empty promise, wanted to tell me, oh, well, I can't help because I'm a felon now. Ted Bollinger's a felon. Not sure if you knew this, but Alicia Bollinger got busted with multiple felonies when she was a minor, multiple felonies as an adult before her sister was killed, and then more felonies after her sister was killed in multiple states. I don't know if she's been convicted of any of them. Probably not, though, because she's young and pretty. Well, not anymore. Now she's close to 30. Wonder if she's still doing drugs. Probably, but I'm not going to ask her. Oh, we got one of my predators on here. Now, like I said, there's predators that get on here to troll me and harass me. And this guy calling himself John Smith is one of them. And that's the majority of the people that come to my channel. When I explain to people that I'm being harmed over the abuse, that includes the slander and libel. And they don't have the time to look at anything, but they'll look at something on their own. So I tell them about the A&E thing, or Sword and Scale, episodes 109 and 110. And then they go watch it, and then they treat me like shit, like all of this stuff that they heard must be true. No, it's not. It's fiction. They take just enough out to try to paint a picture so they don't get in trouble. Did the Bollinger family go advertising to everybody that they were harassing me and threatening me and intimidating me? Actually, yes, they did. They coordinated with others in Natalie Bollinger groups to do so. With a lot of other people. And of course, then I get to deal with people who think that their questions are more important than what I'm saying. They want to interrupt because there's a part that they're confused on. They're not going to help turn it in. They're just confused. Well, I don't care. If you're not going to help turn it in, I don't care how confused you are. If you are going to help turn it in, I'll give you my email address. You can send me a message and I will forward you evidence. I will send you video after video and link after link to people physically assaulting, to people threatening to kill my friends and family. I will send you screenshots of shit. I'll show you right now. Fuck it. Let me show you some of the stuff I got to go through. Now I'm going to show you not just the threats. I'm going to show them to you in the messages that I was told to send. See, the courts wanted to order me to, oh, see, I've already got some of this stuff up. The courts wanted to order me to turn in this evidence that I claim that I have to Kylie, the TFCC investigator here in Tillamook. Oh, this is the Claire Jordan stuff. There's my car with my broken windows. That's apparently a delusion. The door that no longer closes is apparently a delusion. The rock the size of my fucking fist is apparently a delusion. The police tried to frame me for a murder I didn't commit. And that's super popular on these things for them to pretend all sorts of shit. But this is actually the stuff with Claire Jordan I was speaking about earlier. See, that's one of the things about actually having it to show. I mean, you can see I can scroll for about 2 or 3 minutes through this, and you can see that we did correspond a lot. Obviously, this is over years of time. So, I mean, this is never once in all this time, in all these texts, every single one of these, did she ever help me to turn it in. On multiple occasions when it was time to turn stuff in and she claimed that she was gonna, she treated me completely like shit. I'm sorry, I'm still scrolling up. I mean, this is a woman who promised me multiple times that she was going to help me to turn it in. And of course, we have to deal with people who want to be assholes. Anything that I say must be either a schizophrenic delusion or I'm this big supercomputer hacker who can do all sorts of shit that, yeah, no, I'm definitely not a computer hacker. I use my computer for watching videos and for playing video games before Natalie was killed. I watch videos on how to make stuff. Boats, jet engines, whatever. Now, it sucks because a lot of the people that I'm sent to for help, here's one of them. This guy actually drove his car into the Tillamook Airplane Museum.
I love you, brother Shawn. Be safe. Go with God. I love you. They don't pick on you anymore. Watch. They're not going to hate you anymore. Watch. We win. The guys won. I love you.
I know that guy in real life. Here's another one.
Seeing me for who I truly am, Shawn. You're not a pawn in the game. You're a Shawn of the Han. Of the enemy, no. You know the enemy, yes. Thank you for teaching me who they are. The Nazarene Church of Tillamook is evil. Felanius is trying to feloniously assault me with his word actions. He wants the town to burn down. He burnt down the Garibaldi Lighthouse. It's not a smokestack. I'll get it out.
These are the people that I was sent to for help by mandatory reporters. They told me to go to a guy named Brian for help. Brian is a meth addict. Brian was staying with this Ryan Woods feller. God, that was a screwed up situation. But what's the one that we were looking for? Oh yeah, we're gonna look at some threats against my life and my little sister's life. People wanting to say that they're gonna kill my friends and family if I don't pretend to be a pedophile. I mean, this phone is full of contacts and messages with people who were involved in the situation. Sorry, I guess I should hold it over here to scroll it. And it's hard to explain to people, hey, when you're sending me to these people who are batshit fucking crazy, and then telling me, oh, well, I sent you somewhere for help. Do you know what's going on in those places you sent me for help? Like, there's Nicole, God, it starts with a V. Nicole Veltri, maybe? No, Nicole Vertner. When she wanted to pawn me off onto Brian Wilgus for help. Brian Wilgus is the one who pawned me off on her for help to begin with. So I went to where Brian Wilgus said he was staying and he was going to help me. And yeah, my very first day there, I literally had just pulled up, and this guy, Ryan Woods, comes out of the house and starts spreading 223 casings all over the road. And then he goes in and then he grabs a big old bottle of Dawn detergent and walks behind my car and starts squirting the Dawn detergent on the floor. And the cops drive by and they see this and they pull over, and pretty soon there's a bunch of cop cars there. Well, that was my first introduction to that household. Obviously, it wasn't a safe place to be sending me to. There's also the fact that Nicole Vertner is actually recorded on my YouTube channel, pawning me off onto Brian Wilgus. Now, that was a shitty situation. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go for Kylie, who is the TFCC investigator. And we'll scroll all the way to the top. I'm going to show you some of these threats, and you can see them for yourself. Here's one. It says, "Hello again, Shawn. I'm going to kill and rape your sister's kid and take a pic of my cock in its open-gutted rib cage. Since you're a pedo, it might turn you on, but you still be sad that I killed your sis." I don't want to read that anymore. I'm tired of having to show that over and over and over again to show that it was not a delusion. I'm tired of having to dig through and spend hundreds of hours going through stuff to find the parts that people specifically want, when I have to go through a bunch of traumatic shit to do that, and then they don't even look at it. That's not help. And then people want to have a good idea. They'll promise you that they'll help you. But then when they realize that you are in that desperate of a situation, they realize that they can assert some power and control. And for many of these people, that makes them feel good. Well, now that Shawn is here and I promised him I'd help him how he needs, now I can force him to do what I want. No, you can't. No, you can't. You think I'm going to be able to run a 100-yard dash if you beat me with a bullwhip? And no, I'm not accusing anybody of beating me with a bullwhip. I'm giving you an example of things that you may have an assumption, but your assumption doesn't fit my scenario. It doesn't fit my situation. When I'm telling you that I have disabilities, there's a reason for that. There are things I am not able to do for myself. Don't blow me off when I tell you that I have a disability. Now, in order to get this stuff taken seriously, this evidence that shows not only that the things these people wanted to pretend were schizophrenic delusions, that they're absolutely not schizophrenic delusions, and number two, that each and every one of these agencies was aware that these were not schizophrenic delusions before the fact. And that's where the conversations with these people comes in. The conversations with TFCC, the conversations before I went to jail for 15 months on trumped up charges, and after I got out. Now, when you have to do that stuff by yourself because your friends and family aren't actually friends or family, they're acquaintances. Like when your dad is only there when he's drunk and horny, when you leave, are you going to associate with him? Probably not. And actually, that's not even true. With the financial issues of today, there's The fact that many people are dependent on their predators financially. And some of them do it, for example, my mother did. So instead of my mom turning in my grandpa for raping her growing up, whenever she wanted money, she just threatened to turn him in again. She didn't have to get a sugar daddy. She had a real daddy who was a fucking rapist and made it easy for her. But that doesn't mean that I grew up rich. I didn't grow up with my mom. Where the hell are my cigarettes? Fuck it. I kind of like the situation with my dad where we sat in that room for 45 minutes and he was just a jackass the whole time. And then there was this thing called Forex.com. Here's how you can tell. These people, it's that they're not interested. They're bored. When it came to this Forex.com, my dad wanted to pretend that if I did this day trading thing, gambling, he wanted to claim that if I did this Forex.com thing, that it was going to improve all of my life and all this other stuff. And he wanted me to try this, and he wanted me to invest a bunch of hours in this, and he wanted me to download this to my computer. He didn't want to show me how to do any of this or tell me any of this. He wanted to bully me into doing it. First, he tells me to do something. Then he tells me to do it over and over and over again. He doesn't bother to take a look at the fact that literally it's already on my screen and I'm trying to download it to appease this dumb son of a bitch who thinks that his pet project with Forex.com is going to fix it. So then when it comes to the Forex.com, yeah, he'll talk nonstop about Forex.com, but he won't show me. So he's putting a bunch more stuff on my plate that I can't mentally handle. And I know I can't handle more of this shit, especially with my dad. I already know how controlling he is. He'll promise to help until he has something that he can hold. Like, for example, he could have kicked me out of his place and not allowed me to gather any of my evidence. That would have been even worse. But people decide what help you need and in what order. And they feel entitled after giving you something that you owe it to them to let them order you around a bit and add more to your plate. That's not help. You are missing the point entirely. Then there's the ones who, yeah, sure, they promise that they're going to help to turn it in. They'll look at the evidence and turn it in with me. And then I get there and they change the rules completely. Now they've got 30 different things they want me to do for them. And then 30 different things they want me to do to prove that I'm trying to help myself. That's how I ended up with a fucking cot that I never use. That's how I ended up with a lot of stuff that I never use. Well, if you don't have that, you're not trying to help yourself. And if you're not trying to help yourself, I'm not going to help you. Like, I don't see how buying a cot translates to turning in Andrew Wolnez or any of these other people who have assaulted me. I don't see where the translation is there. If I buy a cot, it's going to show that I'm making an effort. I'm making an effort. You want me to make an effort in the wrong direction and power pound it. Now, it also gets to the point where people want to throw it in your face, all of the things that you didn't ask them to do that they did for you. They don't want to hear how harmful those things were. And at the time that they did them, they didn't want to hear it either. Like, how about instead of jumping to conclusions and jumping the gun and assuming that you know everything, how about listen to me? Now, that's one of the things where my predators had to taint the situation. Like, for example, with Natalie Bollinger claiming that I was mentally ill and not to listen to me. What's the insinuation she's making there? She's trying to insinuate that I'm a schizophrenic, crazy person. Meanwhile, I'm autistic and easy to victimize. I have Tourette syndrome, and you get to pretend that I am strung out on drugs because I do this when I'm nervous, or I do this with my wrists. I get told by people who don't know me who are just trolls on the internet that saw something about Natalie Bollinger once, that want to insist and state over and over and over again, get on many, many, many accounts that they've created to say that it's a lie. Like, between you and a doctor, I'm going to believe the doctor. That's just the truth. Somebody who doesn't know me, doesn't know my history, but wants to state over and over again that I'm schizophrenic. Well, I've got all sorts of evidence showing I'm not schizophrenic. My channel is full of evidence that I'm not schizophrenic. Evidence from people who have letters before and after their names that, well, I don't even know if I have enough lifetime left to be able to get those kind of degrees. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. Now, police officers told medical professionals that I was schizophrenic because the Bollingers and their friends told these people that I was schizophrenic. So after Natalie is dead, all of these people that I have to turn in want to pretend that I'm schizophrenic. All of them did the same thing Natalie did. Don't believe Shawn. Don't listen to him. He's crazy. You'd be crazy too if you had to deal with these assaults. You'd be crazy too if your friends and family wanted to, well, treat the situation of abuse highly inappropriately. They promise that they'll help you they'll look at the evidence with you. They'll hear your story and they'll help you to turn it in right away. And when they don't do that, that creates a serious trust issue. When they want to interrupt you to let you know how they're skeptical, this is the problem with not looking at the evidence. Or they want to do it just over the phone and they want me to do a bunch of electronic stuff that I need help with. They're not helping me to do those electronic things. Now, some of those people, they got a valid excuse. They're hundreds of miles away. I had to travel hundreds of miles to go see Natalie, or see, to see Natalie too, but to see Shannon Alvarado. And that also was at Shannon Alvarado's request and insistence. Now, is Shannon Alvarado going to say that after the fact? When I left, I didn't tell her specifically I was leaving to go see her. I made it kind of a surprise, but I also had to fucking make it a surprise that I was leaving state at all. I had to flee abuse from the Bollingers, and I had to flee abuse from the police and the courts. When they refuse to look at any evidence, they refuse to hear your side, and every person in that courtroom is involved in, well, not following the law. Your friends don't want to hear what the specifics are. They're not looking at the evidence. They're telling you, I believe you. And then later on, they'll throw it in your face that, well, I never saw it. Or they'll interrupt you while you're speaking over and over and over again. And then later on, when that thing that they wanted to interrupt over and over and over again had more details that were important, and they want to throw it in your face. Well, you never told me that. You never let me. You literally never let me. When we get to the same part in the same exact story, and every single time you say the same exact thing, or you interrupt to tell the same exact story about yourself, what you are not hearing is details of the crime that need to be fucking turned in. Now, because the victim might get talked over, your job as a friend or family member is to make sure that they don't. Especially if they're a vulnerable adult. You get to see people get on here and make fun of me for being retarded, doing the whole Hodor thing, or saying Lenny needs to tend the rabbits and all this other stuff. Now, the ones who do the Lenny tends the rabbit stuff, that generally tends to be the people from the Christian group of people through something Jensen. Now, I've blocked multiple accounts of his. I can do that on YouTube. These people use YouTube and Facebook to make me a target. And real people watch Facebook and YouTube. It's also real people making these Facebook and YouTube videos and content. So when I'm trying to explain that these are real human beings who are doing this, that they are coordinating, sure, the people on the internet aren't the ones physically assaulting me, but in many cases, they have been busted coordinating with the people who are physically assaulting me. They have used the internet to coordinate with them. This includes internet video games where they get on and through their chat and through their, basically their channel is set up to look like it's a video game channel, like teaching you how to do video games. But instead it ends up being making fun of me, tagging my name with the words telekinesis, telling everybody that I know telekinesis and that I move stuff with my mind with telekinesis. And I'm told that I need to turn these things in by myself by people who have actually seen it, only to get treated like these things are delusions when I do. And I explain over and over again, this is English that I'm speaking. English is your first language. How is it that you are twisting everything that I say into something else? How is it that you claim you understand? And then you want to interrupt me a whole bunch, tell me your whole life story, and I have to explain to you how harmful that is and how we're going off topic. We're going off subject. Your questions don't show that you care about me. Those questions do show curiosity, but they don't show that you care. And also, what line of questioning are you asking? Are you asking questions about the situation so that you know about the abuse? Or are you asking the questions where you're trying to dig for any excuse not to help? You will literally manufacture an excuse not to help. You still want to pretend like you want to help. You still want to get recognition for the nice shit that you're doing. No, you're just wasting my time. You're also lying to me because it's not nice to do that. You're lying to yourself, telling yourself that it's nice to do that. Now, of course, the instructions from YouTube are when people are doing this, I'm supposed to call the cops. We get to see how that works out. It doesn't. And then I'm also supposed to block them, which I've done. What do? Make more accounts to harass me. Now, there's a difference between making an account to get your voice heard because you're the victim, which is my case. But I can't protect myself or defend myself from these predators, from these people who want to get on here and type the Lenny 10 the Rabbit stuff, or the Hodor thing, or the you're a rapist, you're a murderer, and everybody knows it. Maybe you should go look. Who is it you're accusing me of killing? Tell me in specific. Then look that person's name up. Type in your little Google thingy, who killed Natalie Bollinger? Now, of course, we got folks on here typing stuff like, who's that behind you and stuff like that. And yeah, I could get a mediator. But instead, what am I doing? I'm taking screenshots of it. That's proof that it exists, which is advice that people want to give me over and over and over again. Why don't you take screenshots? I do. I also tell people repeatedly, I will send you the screenshots if you're willing to see them. If you're offering to help me and you're willing to hear my story and you're willing to look at the evidence, that's what I need. I shouldn't have to go to YouTube or Facebook to turn these things in. I shouldn't have been forced into such a situation of desperation. When I, as a victim of actual stalking, actual threats against my life, and actual assaults before Natalie was killed, when I had to turn in this stuff, I got talked in circles. Police sent me to friends and family who sent me to the police, who sent me to mental health, who sent me to friends and family, who sent me to the police, who sent me to friends and family, who sent me to, like, now it's 10 years of this. How about one of you Stop being a lazy piece of crap. Stop pretending that you care and actually help how I need. A lot of people have their pet projects they want to do, and I've said this many times. You know, I need them to hear what's going on without interruption, but I can't get them to stop volunteering for a bunch of stuff. Or all of a sudden they tell me they know everything about computers and they're speaking Greek to me at that point. What they're not doing is becoming familiar with my situation, not focusing on my situation, and not looking at evidence of my situation. And then they don't want to pay attention to it seriously. No, they want to tell me, oh, well, I'll listen to it while I'm doing laundry. Hey, Shawn, how about you spend a whole bunch of hours to gather all that stuff on the internet like you've done many times before and send me a big old pile of it and I'll look at it. And then they never do. Look at the situation with Mandy Hughes. Look at the situation with Kayla Trujillo and many others who said if I send them the evidence, they'd look at it and didn't. Said that they understood they needed to help me to turn it in right away, and they didn't. You get to see it's not that I didn't make the effort, it's that these are just shitty people. They never intended on actually helping me. Some of them maybe conceptually, but in reality, these people wanted to control the issue. They wanted to tell me what I should be doing, what I should be thinking, what I should be feeling. They wanted to dictate who I should be. That doesn't work because no two of you are going to agree on what I should be. You want to argue over what part of the truth I should tell? No, that's not okay. How about we tell the whole truth? How about instead of hiding the fact that I did, in fact and indeed, threaten to kill people, how about instead of trying to pretend that that did not happen, how about we pay attention to why it did happen? Why did I threaten my predators back? Oh, we can't talk about the past. No. We need to talk about the past because it's not in the past. It's frequent and ongoing. And you wanting to pretend that because you have a fantasy in your head based on looking at no evidence and listening to nothing I'm saying, that you know everything about the situation. Well, holy fuck, that is a goddamn delusion. Like, it's hard to believe that there are so many people that have these delusions and think that it's real, think that it's reality. Like, if my car gets broken down in the middle of the road, that means I'm threatening to kill you and your family somehow. No, that's fucking delusional goddamn thinking. That screenshot that you guys got to see of people telling me that they're going to murder my little sister and my niece if I don't pretend to be a pedophile. Yeah, is that a delusion? Obviously not. Police did wrong shit. They pressed false charges against me to try to convince people not to look at me. Tried to paint me as a violent schizophrenic out to hurt people for no reason. Claimed that them arresting me had nothing to do with Natalie Bollinger. Lied to the public about the situation. I wasn't allowed to defend myself, police or the public. They just slandered whatever the fuck they want, wrote down whatever the fuck they wanted. And not one fucking friend, not one of these people who claim to love me and love, all right? I want you to understand. Here's the difference between liking somebody and loving somebody. We're not talking in love, okay? I did love Natalie Bollinger. Absolutely. She was my friend. When I decided that I was going to end my life over the abuse, it was because my friends wouldn't help me to put a stop to it. They wanted to give advice, and bad advice at that. And then Joanna Taylor Smith wanted to do something stupid. When she said that if I ended my life over the stuff that Natalie, Alicia, and Maddie were doing, she was, well, I don't know the exact words, so we're going to have to go back and look at it, but basically that she would retaliate against them, that she would make their lives hell. That's what prompted me to try to destroy my Facebook. I'd been speaking up about the abuse over and over again on my Facebook because my friends wouldn't hear me in real life. And I decided that I was going to destroy my Facebook before killing myself, so that Joanna Taylor Smith wouldn't go after Natalie, Alicia, and Maddie. I tried to protect them the same as I'm trying to, well, it's unfortunate, but I'm trying to protect my predators from physical violence at the hands of their victims. Obviously, with the 3 people in an 8-hour period that were talking about how they were going to, well, one of them said he was going to beat Wolnez with a baseball bat. Of course, the guy's disabled and in a wheelchair, so what do you expect? There's a difference between having a baseball bat ready and handy, which he doesn't, in case Andrew Wolnez tries to assault him, and him going and finding a baseball bat and pursuing Andrew Wolnez. I don't pursue my predators. What they do is they harm me and then play victim. And while I'm having a mental breakdown from being fucking abused, they get to play victim. They get to go, oh, he's crazy, he's crazy. Certainly not okay. I don't know how many things on here have been typed. These trolls, probably quite a few. And of course, we'll take a screenshot of them. Sure that we have it recorded. It's about showing the abuse that disabled people have to go through. The harassment that we have to go through, the fact that nobody cares. They can call a disabled person who's being victimized mentally ill and get away with it, which is why disabled people are 12 times more likely than the rest of the population to be victimized, especially schizophrenic people and autistic people. The reason for this is because most of y'all don't know the difference between autism and schizophrenia. You also don't recognize that you treating us like we're schizophrenic is the reason that we're having a PTSD reaction, which you're using as an excuse to pretend that we're horrible people because we're having a reaction to something that you are doing wrong. A lot of times we needed somebody who does actually have a clean slate, somebody who's going to sit down and listen to understand and to believe you, not somebody who's going to continue to treat you like, well, I need to interrupt you because, you know, that does sound like it's a tall tale or some crap like that. Well, there's evidence. That's the thing. There's evidence. I don't need you to interrupt me to tell me whether you believe me or not. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if you believe me or don't believe me based on something you're refusing to look at. If you say, I am not going to look at your pony, and then you go, he doesn't have a pony. He's making up the pony. There's no such thing as ponies. This is delusional thinking. Oh, if I don't look at the evidence of assaults, but I go to these Natalie Bollinger sites and I say, oh, there's no evidence of assaults. There's no videos of assaults. He's making it up. He's making it up. And these people who might be interested might actually care that there's videos of the actual assaults against me. But somebody's claiming that they've already looked and it doesn't exist. That's gaslighting. And this is what my predators do. While people like Claire Jordan, through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of text messages and calls and so on and so forth, has so far managed to do nothing
Absolutely nothing. Matter of fact, the one call that she made, she went out of her way to be the opposite of helpful. She was disrespectful and talking down to me like I was a fucking dog. Like, yeah, that's not helping, Claire. The issue that I'm having here is these fucking pieces of shit think they can fucking walk all over me and abuse their position of power to keep evidence of their abuse out of fucking court. Evidence of their mistakes out of court. Because many of these places, yes, what they did was abusive. Neglect is actually considered abuse. But it wasn't at that point intentional. When it became intentional, that's when it became severely criminal. When these people started going out of their way to pretend evidence that they'd seen didn't exist, so their friends wouldn't get in trouble for assaulting me, those became felonies at that point. Because these are people with a position of power, and many of the people that they're protecting are police officers who wanted to take it upon themselves to decide my guilt and impose punishment. They were able to take away my evidence and all of my other rights by using the mentally ill term to insinuate that I was schizophrenic. And over again, the people with the big letters behind their name stated outright that, yeah, Shawn Schwartz is neither schizophrenic nor delusional. Now, what are all of these cases previously based on? All of their decisions based on the insinuation that I was schizophrenic, that the evidence didn't exist because I was mentally ill, that I was making it up because I was mentally ill, that I had hallucinated it because I'm mentally ill. And in reality, what mental illnesses? At that point, you're definitely fucking with the heavy shit, because instead of identifying what disabilities I have and that they're being exploited, you want to just blanket it as mental illness to try to get people to not listen, to try to get them to infer that this person must not be worth listening to. This person must not know what's going on. This person must not be intelligent. This person should be in a home. This person should be locked up.
So we got people typing here. And then, of course, we got people that want to give bad advice, like telling me to get a gun. Many people have offered me guns. But you guys who are paying attention here, you get to see the trolls that are typing in this and how many of them there are. Now, of course, can I block all of these people? Nope, I can't. It's impossible, isn't it? No, I can keep on blocking them. They'll keep on making accounts. And that was the problem with Natalie Bollinger, too. Telling her friends to leave me alone didn't work. They didn't want to hear my side. They just wanted to threaten to kill me and my friends and family. Wanted me to tell me to leave somebody alone that I was leaving alone. Like every time I thought that maybe things were going to be decent and I could finally go see my older brother in Boulder, Colorado, I'd get another one of these fucking nut jobs out of nowhere fucking harassing me, making another fake account. And when people want to pretend that I just was some pervert who couldn't take no for an answer, well, that's not what the evidence supports. And that's why people go out of the way to try to deter you from looking at it, to try to tell you not to listen to me. I post up my medical stuff here frequently and often, showing over and over again multiple doctors stating very, very specifically that I am neither schizophrenic nor delusional, and stating very specifically that Natalie Bollinger's situation is true. But if it doesn't fit
what the predators have to say, and they're the ones with the position of power, well, it doesn't matter what they're legally required to do because nobody's going to make them do it. Nobody's going to hold them accountable. Nobody's even going to try. There's also the fact there's a feller who was supposed to help me. He was going to look at evidence and help me to turn it in. And he was also volunteering to do a bunch of stuff and ended up burning himself out. You know, they get so busy volunteering for this stuff, and I'm asking them not to. Don't volunteer for any of this stuff yet. Don't give me 10,000 ideas of what we need to do yet. I don't need you to interrupt to spend a whole bunch of time doing that stuff. I need you to become familiar with my situation. If somebody physically assaulted me, I need you to see the video showing that they physically assaulted me. I need you to take a look at the hospital paperwork that shows the physical injuries. I need you to understand that no matter how intelligent I am, these people are trying to hide crimes they committed. They don't care how intelligent I am. You know, at least here and with the youngins who go by, I have the benefit of the fact that they don't have any of the same power as the judge does who commits felonies against us. Doesn't have the same power to remove evidence or destroy evidence. When you're harmed by civilians, it's a different story than being harmed by police. But in all of these cases, the reason for the victimization is the same. People go after whoever it's easiest to victimize. People who are alone. People who, in their mind, nobody is going to believe. Nobody is going to listen to, or nobody's even going to care. Serial killers, why is it the most serial killers aren't going after a specific type of woman like they do in the movies? Most serial killers are not after a blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl. Most serial killers aren't after a brunette with brown eyes. Hell, most serial killers aren't even gender specific. They're target of opportunity specific. You guys want to worry about the very, very rare instances. Like, I've gotten to hear the opinion that the men who are most likely to rape you should be locked up. They shouldn't have the opportunity to rape you. And many women agree with that. And, well, if we were to do that, we would lock up all of the fathers. The person most likely to rape you is your dad, very specifically. So what we need to do is, whether you love your dad or not, we should take your advice and we should lock your dad up. And we should lock up your neighbor's dad. And every other dad for that matter. Because your solutions, these are the solutions that you guys want to give. They're not very well thought through. Kind of like when people's solution for homelessness is just to kill all the homeless, or to force them all into work camps, or force them all to take medications. Well, you've now gone out of your way to not identify why they're homeless to begin with. You've decided that it doesn't matter. You just want to do something horrible. You want to do something holocaustic and eat away the fabric of society. Anyway, with the trolls that are on here, I don't want to continue much more in this video, but I am going to do something that I do frequently and often, if it'll allow me to do so. You notice these people got names like Please Don't Run, Jack Me Off, and yeah, we've got a lot of these. So, of course, it doesn't end up being a situation where I get the average viewers. It ends up being a situation where I have to speak up in a place where the only people who are coming here are people who are going to get confused easily and leave, and the very people that I've been trying to turn in for the last 10 years. So, of course, screenshotting what they have to say is a good start. It shows it's the reality of the situation. Now, some of y'all want to give advice. Well, why don't you just block the chat? You know you can block the chat, right? Hey, Shawn, why don't you block the chat? Hey, Shawn, why don't you get a chat moderator to help you with that? Do you have a chat moderator? Hey, where's your chat moderator? I live in a plastic tent in somebody's back fucking yard. If I am assaulted today, I don't have anyone that I can go to and say I was just assaulted and have them actually care. When it comes to the violations of the protection orders, I already know from experience that when I go to the people who I'm being told I need to go to, that they're just going to talk about themselves, that they're going to go out of their way not to get the point. When it comes to turning in crimes with the victim, you guys go out of your way to do the opposite. You go out of your way to give bad advice instead of helping to turn in that these things are happening. Instead of turning in that these people have made multiple accounts to harass me and threaten me and intimidate me. Or that I blocked literally hundreds of them already. Do you see these things being typed? Of course you do. Do you hear the things they're saying? No, but you can read them. You can acknowledge that these are not delusions. That the people who are typing these things are, in fact, and indeed typing these things. That they're going out of their way to be as mean as possible, as disrespectful as possible, to try to talk about a bunch of crazy off-topic stuff. And meanwhile, most of these guys have profiles where if you go to them, either they're brand new or there's nothing on them because they only use them for harassing and threatening people. And then they disappear and you're like, oh, well, you know, we can't turn it in now because it disappeared. I still got screenshots of it. So it proves that it happened. It proves that it exists. And much like with the people harassing me here and I'm taking screenshots of it, I do the same with the other people who do those things. Same thing with the telephone calls, text messages. I do my best to record everything. It's a matter of somebody caring that it's happening. Recognizing that they can make a difference, but they need to not be a controlling asshole. When you're going to help somebody turn in the abuse that they're going through, you need to know what abuse they're going through. They don't need to know all of the abuse in your past. They don't need to hear all the stories about you had this friend in college who got beaten up by your boyfriend. You don't need to hear all of that stuff. That is all unrelated to what you need to do as a friend or family member, which is not go all ODSS or ADOS, I guess is another way of saying it. Attention deficit, oh shiny. Attention deficit, oh squirrel. Getting sidetracked on something that doesn't fucking matter or is not important right now. How about we focus on hearing my story, looking at the evidence and turning it in together? 3 simple steps. Now, of course, we've got the Benzo 666 accounts. He's made quite a few accounts. Right now, he's made an account called King of Akron 666. Let's see. Remove. See how easy that is to do? Now imagine in real life, if you were able to do that when somebody was physically assaulting you, when somebody was threatening to kill your family, when somebody pulled a gun out on you or a knife,
or start swinging a baseball bat at you. Imagine that you can just hit the I don't want to hear it button. Well, a lot of people do that. There is an I don't want to hear it button. Not literally, but the I don't give a shit. Yes, people give a shit unless it means they actually have to hear you. Yes, they give a shit unless it means that they actually have to recognize that they've done something wrong. People have all sorts of intentions. It's their motivations that are the issue. Now, of course, what am I going to do? I've got a bunch of screenshots of the predators that I have to deal with. That's one of the things that sucks about having to go to YouTube. You got to deal with a lot of fucking predators with time on their hands. For not one friend wanted to actually take the time to look at evidence and help turn it in. Literally anything but that. Now on the bright side, there's what these people want to type. These people from the Ixuth 666 crowd and the Shapeshift 13 crowd. These are some of my predators that were working together at one point with Andrew Wolnez to fuck with me, and they also keep trying to antagonize the situation with Wolnez and I, which is for certainly illegal too. Anyway, I'm gonna actually end this video just because of the sheer quantity of trolls. I can record offline and speak and tell about the situation. And then these guys got to get on later on and type on, and I can just block their whole account from coming on here and harassing me. It's not illegal to do that. It's not immoral to do that. But it is both illegal and immoral to do that in court. To claim that somebody committed a crime and then preventing that person from going to court. Preventing that person from being allowed to go to court. Preventing that person from being allowed to show evidence. There's a reason for this mentally ill gaslighting shit. Y'all be safe. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and your sister's keeper too. And no victim left behind.